All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Embracing Special Needs podcast, where we shed light to some of the stories of some very special people. I am your co host, Thomas Matthew,
And I'm your other co-host, Caitlin Butcher.
and today we'll be talking with Noelle Smith. She has autism, also known as Asperger's syndrome, and is a yoga and meditation instructor. Noelle, would you like to possibly introduce yourself with our audience?
Yeah. Welcome to this podcast about myself. My name's Noelle Smith. I'm 24 and I have autism, also known as Asperger's syndrome. I was a little bit about myself. I was diagnosed at a very young age. I would say grade 1 or 2. Very noticeable difference compared to normal people. And as I put the bunny ears up, to me, I don't believe that there's no normal person. Everyone's different, and uh, I think I think that people with autism are no more than just normal human beings, and um, but unfortunately, when I was my young age, the term retarded was a very what would you call it? It was a normal word to use to refer someone with autism and disabilities. And sorry if it's a bit of a trigger for someone who's watching this, but the harsh reality is that when I grew up, that was the way it was. And I mean, through my experience in my elementary school years, I I was bullied physically, verbally, and I just never had a lot of great friendships because of the status that I have. And I, for me, I was very different compared to how I am now. My past self would not be on this video right now. Um, I wouldn't have talked since till the age of 8, and I would have tantrums. So to me, like throughout school, always I was very traumatized, and I reacted in what would be different for a normal person. And as I got older, the bullying never stopped. The My failing of school was happening until I realized that like I never felt that what I was told to do, um, what I was basically fixed to do uh, through the school society of my future was not going to be a successful one. Um, I don't know if anyone out there has had kind of a doctor intervene for my status as an autistic person. I remember very clearly that in my quote unquote I was not going to pass. I was not going to graduate. That was my level of intellectual abilities, and basically through that and through just bullying in general, I always in the back of my mind I always thought this wasn't right. I as much as I felt comfortable being inside of my own mind and using food to eat things and using tantrums to let my emotions out and then hold them all back in, I knew that was not the right way to properly live. So I mean, through my efforts, and definitely through my wonderful family, my wonderful parents that I had who supported me through everything, who basically got me out of detention many, many times because it wasn't right. And I just, I started rebelling through the school system. And I mean rebelling as in not skipping school or doing what a normal teenager kind of would do. To me, I rebelled in studying my butt off, um, because I wanted to prove that, you know, someone with autism is able to graduate and have great grades, um, and I also rebelled in the fact that I participated in gym things, you know, normal things, even though my EAs would be terrified at the fact that I was playing football with the men, and going against kind of the comfort zones of who I was once before. And I mean, I won't lie, I've cried many times, and I've went against what my body felt, and I experienced anxiety at a young age. But all I can say is through all that, I eventually came across yoga and meditating, the whole idea of, you know, an awareness to live. And that I went into that. Um, and for those who aren't aware, yoga meditation is something that, definitely in my community, people with autism shouldn't participate in doing. Like, it's deemed too uncomfortable for someone with disabilities, or just intellectual disabilities or differences, I like to say. And of course, I went against that. And it was funny. I hated yoga and meditation so much in the beginning. I hated it. It brought me, like, I did poses that made me way too uncomfortable. You know, the physical touch of the instructor was just, honest to God, like, would freak me out. And but I kept going at it, and I actually went outside of school, did it as a whole goal of mine. Like, once a day I went, like, dedicated, because I was just like, well, what are all these yoga people like experiencing here? You know, I'm not getting this yet, but I have to try. And I remember one class we were sitting, and in my view, I call it the true enlightenment that I experienced. And I was hooked ever since that moment. It was a, what I could describe in this podcast is, I literally saw so many faces of myself, and I felt like the world unraveling before me, and just words of, like, all accepting, you know, like all capable, that each individual can do. And it was just such an eye opener to me. And that's where I was hooked to yoga, and that's why I continued on, and I still am. And so years fly by, and I graduated, top grades, um, got scholarship money. I literally was on the stage of graduation just giving the middle finger, just because right before me were people who did not think that I was capable, especially to doctors, and especially to, just higher representatives for my Canadian government, because, you know, my status on quote unquote was I wasn't supposed to be at this level. So graduated, and now I'm taking and have taken training as a yoga instructor. I like to say that I'm still taking it to learn because yoga instruction is a lifelong training, and just through that I just knew that my purpose is to hopefully get other people who are kind of similar boat or totally different boat to experience yoga and hopefully experience the thing that I have. And even if that's not gonna if that never happens, I just hope that the yoga that I teach and the meditations I teach is to basically just anyone, any person on the autism spectrum is so much capable. Just like it's not the piece of paper, it's not the status that rules over you. I just wanted to show that I'm a prime example for someone who just went against kind of what was written about me, through a doctor. And I'm here today talking right now. And to me, I'm forever grateful for the trauma that I've experienced. And I just hope to help anyone, just social media or in person. To me, that's my purpose. And I feel like if I can even help just one person, it makes such a difference for me. Um, I know that where people on the spectrum might feel limited because of their status, but I just want them to know that you're not the status, you're not the disability words. You are so much more than that. And I hope I answered to the questions there.
No, yeah, that was really brilliant, and I just want to say thank you once more for sharing that with you because for with us because I think the stuff that you experienced as a child is something that no one should be allowed to experience. And I think when we share people's voices, like for example, your Instagram account and our Embracing Special Needs podcast and our Instagram account and blog, I think by sharing the accounts of individuals like you, I think we can really make a difference. And I think there is a difference now. Like, I don't think that I think people are more aware of just how many how limitless people with autism are, and that they can accomplish, like you said, so much more than what they're told they can, right? And so I guess one question I have to you is, do you think that the times have changed since you were a child? Like, do you think people have gone better to accepting you for who you are and not like categorizing people as normal and not normal? What do you think?
I believe this, in terms of the school system, it has changed for the better, but not enough. Um, it's funny. For me, I've wanted to teach in school of my yoga and stuff, and in my community, and I still to this day never get answers or get a decline for doing that.
Mhm.
Specifically for people that are special needs. And I've been kicking the door so many times to each and every school. And it's just such a negative response
Mhm.
for me to make the kids go through something like that. Um, but at the same time, I want to say, in terms of school systems out there, I think that I don't think that they're really a villain. I think they mean well, but I just don't think it's the right approach per se. Just so that's clear. So I'm not hounding at like the big school system about it. Um, but yeah, I think in terms of now the world, I think we are doing better, but I think at the same time, I think we can do better. Just the fact that each individual can can just accept everyone as they are. I actually work. I actually have a job where I work with kids and teens with autism and teach them boundaries and how to, live in public. And it breaks my heart when people see see something so odd, that it brings out a negative response to people. And I think people need to be more mindful in the fact that, you don't know this person. You can love this person though. And I mean, in the yoga person in me, I think everybody should kind of be mindful to each individual. And I think that would solve a lot of different subjects like Black Lives Matter and autism acceptance. And I think we just need to love each other, not not status each other, but more just, oh, you are a unique human being, and I love you and I treasure you. I think that should be the way it should be.
Yes, thank you with all that you've said. I'm truly inspired by your story. One question that I had was, where do you see yourself going from here? What are some of your goals or aspirations? Although you've accomplished so much, I am beyond elated with all that you've accomplished. I was just curious, yeah, where do you see yourself going from here?
I see myself going. I see myself going further in my training, my yoga training, especially into more of the trauma informed, and just so I can have a little more education. Um, because I mean, I realized through teaching autistic people in yoga classes and stuff, there is a lot of trauma involved in their lives. And when they try, I remember when I looked back at my beginner self, I would have panic attacks on the spot. And I would like to further my training and just have so many different options and avenues that I can take to help them. Um, and also too, I don't have like a really big career that I want to go into. It's funny. I always, I have friends who just went right to university or college, and for me, that's not so much myself the case. I actually love what I'm doing right now in life, in my job in helping kids and teens with autism. And it doesn't, I mean, I'm very fortunate for being able to live on such a kind of part-time type job, casual, but all the same, I'm able to support myself. I'm in a one-bedroom place. Um, I've just I haven't thought career-wise of going so much anywhere, but I mean, I'm not closing myself off at the opportunity. Like, I'm actually considering massage therapy, and like, I always keep my mind open. And I I just try to enjoy life as much as I can. And I mean, with having autism, I find through my mindfulness and understanding of myself, I know that my energy drains more often than a normal person. So, I mean, my day-to-day life, I have to sit down and meditate, or things can go crazy. And so, I mean, I don't know. I also believe the universe works in ways it does. It will push me in whatever direction where I need to be. And I mean, for my personal life, I hope to get a relationship and meeting someone as well, and just meeting new friends, and just being so social, such as this.
That's
Thank you.
great. That's great. I know you brushed up a little bit on your parents and the impact that they've had on your life. I think a lot of our followers are autism moms and dads. So, what advice would you give to parents of children with autism? What would you say they need to do in order to raise kids to not not hinder themselves and try to achieve their goals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've definitely been interested in looking in the perspective of parents with the autistic child. Um, I would, to me, what I always thought is just giving your child space, and just being understanding of whatever your child's going through. Um, I mean, I actually have a friend who has an autistic daughter who was recently diagnosed. So I babysit her. So in my in my field of kind of feeling like a parent, I would say, just always have her be curious, and have her understand like exactly what she's doing and how she's feeling about it, and just accepting them. I mean, when I look back on my childhood, I always had a habit of putting everything in line, and everything like perfect and organized, and I liked that feeling. And my parents definitely gave me the space to do that. And when I would have tantrums, instead of saying no, stop it and stuff, and demanding, they they made me just have my own space, where it was my room. Um and I would say also to any parent is just being honest with your children. My parents are very honest in living. A lot of parents have found my parents to be rather harsh, but they were, because they never sugarcoated anything that came into life. My mom has had cancer when I was really young, and so I had to take care of myself at a very young age. And as much as she tried hiding it and taking care of us three kids, I have a brother and sister. My dad was working a lot to financially wise. Um, but basically, she never lied to us. And I think that's what made me become so mature at such a young age, is because we had these instances where we had no money and we were poor. And, like during Christmas, we never had presents, and my parents never lied to us. And well, as we got older, drugs and the teenager years, they basically, we all sat down together all the time, and they would show us the reality of what choices we were going to make. And and they always said, you can be honest with us. If you're going to go to a party, you let us know, and we're not going to put you in trouble. We're going to let you go, but we have just conditions about it. And that made everything work. I felt secure, knowing that my parents know I'm here, my parents know I'm there, and just know that if anything happened, they would be there. And I think for someone with autism, it's just so, it's just you're able to live so much better having a parent that doesn't judge you in the odd behaviors, just simply accepts you as you are, gives you love and affection, and is honest with you. I think is just a huge thing. But I think honesty is the answer to kind of a lot of things, like relationships and friendships. And so I would say that would be an advice to have.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that your parents were such a empowering support system. I was wondering if you had any other extended family or maybe friends or teachers that also were a support system for you.
Um, I had a I had a couple teachers who not necessarily like they've helped me, um, but I never had I never had a really true friendship, and I never had so much of a like someone besides my parents that I could really depend on during my childhood, because I live in a small town, and I don't know if you live in a small town, but I've been raised here in this small town, and so everybody knows me, and everybody knows me as the girl with autism. Um, Also, I was developed early when I was a teenager, so bullies would automatically assume that I slept with a lot of people and had that lifestyle, and of course that's the opposite of what it was. And so, I mean, to this day, it's sad to say, but some people still view me as that girl,
Mhm.
but I don't choose to let it bother me. Um, so I mean, I guess I would say that I myself had a great support in with yoga and meditating. And I think even before then, because I always knew that the way that I was treated was not right.
Mhm.
And I like I've always through my trauma I've always been by myself, and I think through that I've just grown to trust my instincts. And yeah, I but yeah, definitely family and myself.
All right. Yeah, that's nice to know. I think one thing I'm interested in knowing is what led you to decide to create your Instagram channel? Like, what was the inspiration behind that, and what goals do you have um, with your specific platform?
For my Instagram, I kind of did it just it was a casual one in the beginning because that's what everybody was doing. Um, but as I got into yoga and stuff, I never so much and I still don't use it so much as getting as much people to follow me as possible or give me money in certain workshops that I do. It was merely a place where I felt like I could tell the world the reality of certain situations. Um, and also to erase kind of that Instagram stigma of a yoga instructor who's super thin and like very flexible. If in my I'm considered plus sized for women. Uh, I have a curvy body. I am the least flexible person, even though I've done yoga for about 6 years now. Um, I do it dedicationally, but I still to this day am not flexible. And part of that is because of my bone structure and just the way that I am for my body. And I found it really hard to see on Instagram so many thin bodies. You know, you have to have a thin body to be a yoga instructor. I've had a I've had an experience in my community where I was denied going to a certain studio because, you know, my boobs were too big, and I was considered overweight and didn't look good in my tights and stuff. So I mean, with Instagram, I also too, you know, I do want to give the reality of a real body and a real situation, you know, like I'm not saying I don't hate thin bodies. It's just I feel like there's just such this, you know, when we think of an instructor, we think of a skinny, you know, normal human being. But for me, I hope to show the world that, you know, you know, this is reality. I have a no makeup face. You know, I have roles, and yeah, I have autism, and this is very uncomfortable showing this pose, but at the same time, it's going out of your comfort zone. It's just and just knowing and just letting people know that having roles on a sitting position is totally normal.
Yeah, I think all that you've covered today is very, very empowering, and I'm glad that you're truly expressing your true self so that people know that not everything is the way that some people make it appear. And one thing you mentioned a lot of takeaways, but if you could summarize it in like one, like I guess one idea, what would it be, or what piece of advice or common misconception would you want like our audience to know and take away from this?
I think the huge thing I would like everyone to know is that you are not your labels. You know, you're being status as a person with disability doesn't mean you can't do certain things. And you know, you may find that in society, you know, you might be told that this certain thing's not okay, and oh, that career's a little too hard for you. I think if you as a unique person love something, you got to go for it, and you got to go out of your comfort zone. That's a huge thing. I know through my school system, it was always staying in my comfort zone. But I want to let everyone know that, you know, you sometimes have to go out of your comfort zone to live. Um, like you don't have to go too much like where you're very uncomfortable, but you should have that feeling of nervousness, and you know, and that's what, and you got to use that as a drive to go forward. And I like to, what I like to say is I think the term disability needs to be turned into the term uniqueness, or infinite, or an infinite uniqueness of someone, because I don't think these odd behaviors is odd. It's because you know, this is you as a person. And I think we need to realize that as a society, you know, just because someone maybe looks different or acts different doesn't mean that, you know, they can't succeed in life. So yeah, definitely don't follow the label that, you know, a medical expert gave you, or I don't know, wherever you got that label from. Just just know that that's not who you are, that label. It's
Yeah, all right. I think we're about to reach our 30-minute mark. So maybe as a last question, Noelle, would you like to maybe tell our audience how they can contact you and reach out to you?
I can be reached out through my Instagram. Um, and my Instagram has my Facebook page. Uh, and, people are more than welcome to message me privately on any questions and stuff. Um, I try to keep everything as confidential as possible. But I do like to say, I'm not a professional expert. I mean, I'm a personal expert, but um, and just simply, I don't want to say like, oh, everybody follow me and stuff. It's not about that. It's just if this resonates with you, I hope to have you follow me, and I hope to like hear stories from other people. Um, my Instagram page is merely not a promoter just to myself. It's also for me to expand my vision to other people. And ideally, I would love to meet fellow people who kind of experience similar things or maybe something totally different. And so, I mean, just contact me through my Instagram. And if you don't know, my thing is at Empowered Spectrum Yoga. I don't know if you're going to have that link but that's where you can get me from.
Yes, for sure. We will definitely put the link to your Instagram account on the description for this video, this podcast.
Yeah. We wanted to thank you so much, Noelle, for dedicating time out of your day to speak with us. I have learned so much from you, and I'm very, very happy that we got to speak with you today. And just know that you are always welcome back on our podcast to speak even more in depth about anything we discussed today. To the audience, we do post our podcast twice every month. And with that, we would like to conclude this interview. So thank you so much, Noelle.
Yes, thank you for having me.